Today it's time. It's time to keg our Mangrove Jack's Mexican Cerveza. Welcome back to The Backyard Brewer, a podcast for passionate home brewers, featuring how-tos, equipment reviews and recipes. Week by week we'll be breaking brewing down to its essential processes to explain what, why and how. Our Brewing 101 series will help beginner brewers get the best out of this hobby, and our advanced topics will touch on some of the more fun aspects of brewing. It doesn't matter if you're a first timer or an experienced brewer, there's content here for you. So where are we? You'll remember that quite a while ago I put this Mangrove Jack's kit down. Now because we were coming into the colder months here in Brisbane, it took a while for it to ferment out. So that's happened now. We're down to 1.004, which is nice. It's a nice dry Mexican lager, which is how I prefer to drink it. And it's been sitting conditioning in the fridge for about 4 weeks now. So typical lagering. It's been sitting at around 1 degree, and that just allows the lager to rest and develop and mature like a good wine. It needs a bit of time. You can't drink lagers too early, or they just taste wrong. So I've let it go as long as I dare. We do need to get some beer into a keg because we finished our session pale ale the other day, so we've got a spare keg sitting around. We've actually got a few spare kegs sitting around now, so we need to get a few more brews on. I've got another one conditioning now, but over the next couple of days we'll be doing some more brewing as well. So I've already shown you how to do an oxygen-free transfer from a pressure fermenter into a keg and avoiding contact with oxygen as much as possible. This one, because it's in this style of fermenter, we can't do a pressure transfer. But what I'm going to do is minimise the amount of contact that this has with oxygen as much as possible. One way to do that is to not take the lid off this until the last minute. There'll be a blanket of CO2 covering this at the moment, so if we don't disturb that, then that's good for the beer. Everything here has been cleaned and sanitised. The keg, the only other piece of equipment I need for this is an auto siphon, so I'll show you this up closer a little later, but it's basically a siphon stick, and it's got a little marble in the bottom of it, and as you jiggle it, it stops the wort, or the beer now, it stops the beer from flowing back down into the pipe and forces it up and out into the keg. So I've got a nice long piece of tubing here that will reach to the bottom of the keg. Now you want it to reach to the bottom of the keg to avoid any splashing, because splashing can cause turbulence and cause a little bit of oxygen ingress into the keg. So the first thing we have to do is connect our keg up to our CO2 bottle, because at the moment there's still oxygen in there. Now when I sanitised it, I did purge all of that sanitizer out with CO2. So I hooked up a party tap onto the liquid post and pushed all of that sanitizer out with carbon dioxide. So I'm just going to turn this on and put a little bit of pressure in there. We don't want too much. Okay, about 8 psi. And all I'm going to do is just gently let a little bit of air out at a time. Now all we really want is a blanket of CO2 at the bottom of the keg. It doesn't have to be full of CO2, And the reason for that is that as the beer goes in there, it's going to be pushing that blanket of CO2 up and out anyway. And that's probably enough. Between when I purged the keg and purging it now, there's probably enough CO2 in there. So next I'm going to put the keg onto the floor and very carefully purge the rest of the gas out of here, because there will still be some gas under pressure. And then once I've done that, I can take the lid off, take it out, and if I've got to put a lid down once it's been sanitised, I'll put it down like that so that it's avoiding contact with too many surfaces. So when I look in there, there's quite a lot of foam. Again, that's just from the sanitizer. It's perfectly safe, there's nothing wrong with it. As they say, don't fear the foam. Oh, the smell test, that smells like beer. Oh yeah, that's nice. There's no floaties on the top, it's all pretty good. It's looking nice actually. Now the next thing, I know from experience that this tube is long enough to reach right down to the floor. So there it is, it's sitting right in the bottom of the keg. There's plenty of foam in there. So all I have to do now is there we go. Now one of the advantages of cold crashing your beer before you keg it is that you can see the condensation rise up the side of the keg as the beer goes into it. So you know roughly when it's getting full. Of course, the more height differential there is between your fermenter and your keg, the faster this will go as well. If I have this keg sitting up higher, it's going to take a lot longer. Now we're starting to get a bit of foam coming up out of the top. That's alright. Be a bit of a clean up later. And I can see we're about halfway. Just keep checking the level and the depth of your auto siphon. Make sure it stays in the liquid. At this point you don't want to have to restart it. All of that trube has settled out nicely, and all of the yeast cake. So if I had to shake and shake and shake and restart that again, I'm likely to stir some of that up, and I don't want to do that. What about that far to go? And that's it, that's as far as I want to go in the keg. So now take that out, just put it in the sink for now. I get my lid and put it straight back on. Now that's going into the kegerator at about 1 degree. For probably 24 hours I'll put it on high pressure, about 30 psi, and that will carbonate that beer in 1 to 2 days, so that's good. There is a little bit more left in here and I don't want to waste that, so I'm going to grab some PET bottles and a bottling wand, and I'm going to bottle the rest of this, so stand by. In the end I got a full keg and 6 750ml bottles out of that. Now most of them I put in the standard 2 recommended carbonation drops, because that's what they tell you to do. This one I only put 1 carbonation drop in. It's just something that I heard the other day. Someone was saying that they only use 1 carbonation drop because they prefer a lower carbonated beer. So I thought, well, why not try it, see what it's like with just the 1 carb drop in it. Anyway, these are going to get labelled and they'll get put in the same dark, warmish spot, not warm but constant temperature, in the middle of the house, in the cupboard, and I'll have to label them because the Cooper's bottles don't have labels on them. I don't want to get them mixed up, obviously. So yeah, they'll sit for about another 2 to 3 weeks while they're conditioning and carbonating in the bottle, and at the end I'll be able to taste this and compare it to the keg version and see if there's that much difference. In the meantime, I do have this. It's a little murky. It's the very last dregs out of the bottom of the barrel. It's definitely beer. Oh, it's definitely dry. Yes, that's nice. There is a bit of yeasty flavour in there, but I expected that. But apart from that, yeah, I am getting those Corona vibes. You get a little bit of corn sweetness. It's still a little watery on the palate, and that's because it's uncarbonated. But apart from that, it's nice. You know, give it a couple of weeks to carbonate and that will be a nice drop. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of the episode. In a couple of weeks, we'll crack one of these open and let you know what it's like. But in the meantime, like, comment and subscribe, because that really helps us out. And remember, enjoy the hobby, but drink responsibly.